I'm Danny from Boss, and today we're talking about the DS-1W, the new Waza Craft DS-1. Hey, what's up? Danny from Boss. We're talking about the DS-1W. It had to happen. It happened finally. People have been asking, people have been craving the Waza Craft craftsmanship. So 1978 comes around, Boss comes out with the DS-1. It's one of the longest made Boss pedals in existence. We've made over 1.5 million, I think. I think it's like the McDonald's sign. I think at one point we stopped counting. It's been a lot of DS-1s. It's been on many a pedal board. It's been in many, many music stores over the years. And what's so cool about that is so many people have a connection of some kind to the DS-1. The DS-1 might have been your first pedal. It might have been the pedal that, you were starting to get into Boss pedals and collecting them all, and you wanted to have a good example of a DS-1 from a certain era or whatever. Perhaps it was your first foray into modding pedals, because the DS-1 is a very popular pedal that people have sent into modders and learned how to mod themselves and get into electronics. It's such a cool thing to have this pedal at the center of so many different people's musical journeys. So what is the big deal with the DS-1? They're a great, well-made, solid pedal that will last forever, even though it's, quite inexpensive. So that's definitely one of the big draws of the DS-1. The other thing is that it's super versatile. It is distortion when you want it to be. It can be going into a JC120 clean as can be, and you can dirty it up with a DS-1, or you can use it to push your amp a little harder. So say it's already breaking up or already distorting, you got a DS-1 there, you can get a good overdrive sound and fatten up everything. But what's really important about the DS-1 is that it's touch responsive, it's dynamic. And this was back in the day of pedals where there wasn't really a lot of really dynamic pedals. There was a lot of fuzz pedals that have kind of come out. There's, a little bit of overdrive started to happen in 1978, but Boss was really concerned with having a distortion overdrive that maintained that playing response, that dynamic feel of a pedal or an amp. So that's what's cool about this pedal, is it has two gain stages going into each other, much like an amplifier would. It has, one half of the preamp tube, another one, they're cascaded into each other, and that's how amps get their distortion. That's the same as the DS-1. It's a 2 gain stage circuit. And what another really great part about the DS-1 is that it has a very, very wide sweep on the tone control. I'm talking wide. A lot of people grab the DS-1, they grab a bright guitar like a Tele, bright amp like a Fender or something like that, put everything at noon and think that the DS-1 is really bright sounding, and that's totally true. Yes, that tone control, it can get spicy up in the top end, but that's because it's trying to remain versatile for any situation. Because if you have an amp that's already distorted, if you put more and more bass into it, that you're overdriving with bass, you get a really flubby sound. So if you can tailor those bass frequencies off and push it like a treble booster pedal would, then having that extra brightness going into a distorted amp is way handier. So if you're afraid of the bees, keep that tone control down, baby. Keep it down, keep it low, don't worry. Turn it all the way off if you want, there's no rules. People are going to ask, what's the difference between a DS-1 and the Waza Craft version? And quite frankly, they are very similar. The Waza Craft version is not a crazy wide departure away from a classic DS-1 because it's a classic for a reason. So in the stock mode of this DS-1, you're going to get DS-1. It's going to have a very slightly different flavor, perhaps to one you may have or have heard before, because there have been very slight variations over the years. Nothing crazy. The Boss team has always wanted to keep the DS1 sounding like a DS1 throughout the years, but because of differences in components, differences in things, there have been slight changes over the years. The big difference, of course, is that this version is made in Japan. It's been redesigned to be a fully discrete circuit. So if you clickety-click over to the custom mode, the custom mode gives you more volume, a slightly different mid-range emphasis, it's a little fatter sounding, and it has a more responsive dynamic feel to your touch. It's even more touch responsive. I have a few other pedals on my pedal board here. We're listening to the IR200, which is a wonderful amp cab simulator that I have hooked up in stereo. For a little ambiance, we have the RE2, just for a little bit of ambiance. And then we have the BD2, which will run in as a amp bass with the DS1 a little later. I usually like to actually start with the distortion off and the tone control off with the level at noon. Bypassed. Then you can bring up the tone control as you need it. So I typically, when I'm running into the amps that I have, I usually like to have it about 9 o'clock, but you can do whatever you want, whatever your amp desires. Then just bring in the distortion up to your taste. And with the DS1, you can see, even at the distortion at noon here, it's really, really responsive to my playing dynamic. In full distortion, you get a very usable distortion sound. Let's check out the custom mode now. So, obviously much louder, a little bit of a different flavor to the DS1, but the heart of the DS1 is still there. And that's what I appreciate. So take yourself back, take it back. 1978. What's cool back in 1978? Well, 412 stacks, distortions from the amp a lot of the time, and people want more. They want more out of the amp. They want more. So the DS1 is not necessarily a clean amp distortion. It's also to push distortion into a better zone so you can play a little easier, a little more solo-y, boosty, typey stuff. Let's get a bass tone with the blues driver. Clickety click. Let's go noon for volume, start with the tone and distortion all the way off, but this time we're running into the blues driver, so it's a distorted sound already. So when it's pushing the amp, I can almost feel the notes like popping off my fretboard easier. It's just... And even my monitors are starting to feed back a little bit. It's just hitting the guitar in like that nice little zone. That zone you want to be into if you want to have a squanchy solo that, you know, sustains really well. It's just a good place to be. So then let's pump the volume up a little bit more and get a little bit more squanch out of it. So go all the way up. It's almost getting like fuzz territory. It's starting to push that BD2 or the amp in this case into that real distorted fuzzy zone. So that's when you might want to get the treble control involved and start to dial in more treble and less bass. So off. Turn the volume down a little bit. Let's crank the distortion up a little bit. Just an overall is a really nice sound. Just so now let's see custom mode. Here comes some HUMBUGGIES. DS1 is a classic for a reason. It's good into a clean amp, a dirty amp, straight into a mixer. I don't know what I'm doing with my hands. Regardless of what you're doing, the DS1 is a great tool to have in your toolbox, whether it's the OG, the original DS1, or the new DS-1W that is made in Japan, has a custom switch that gives you a different voicing, and just is a slightly different flavor of DS1. It's still there, it's still a DS1, but it just has a little bit of sprinkle of stuff. So if you like sprinkles, pick up a DS-1W. If you can't afford it, pick up a DS1. You'll have a blast. So I think I've said my piece on the DS1. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.
Long and McQuaid, where the music begins.